Hey everybody, Black Ninja 797 here, and welcome back to another video, guys. And today's video, we are once again going to be doing another ranking video, but it's not going to be quite Left 4 Dead. It's actually going to be a similar zombie game. It's going to be The Walking Dead. We are doing another Walking Dead ranking video, or just another Walking Dead video in general, because this series was so well received on the channel, and I just had to make another video. When I made that video doing the ranking of Season 1 characters, you guys smashed it out of the park, and automatically the video did super well. It's on like 8 likes, I believe, right now, and a little over 30 views within the first few weeks. That is absolutely incredible, and I just want to say thank you. And so I wanted to do another ranking video where I rank all these Season 2 characters in The Walking Dead. Same premise is going to be applied, where we're going to be looking at pretty much every single character. But however, though, I just want to let you guys know that there is going to be a few exceptions to this list. These characters have to be within the actual universe, or in this case, real or alive at the given moment. So that means that we're unfortunately not going to be counting things such as flashback or dream sequence Lee. I was even debating on not including some characters on this list that were even alive or within the universe because they serve little to no purpose other than being just background filler side characters. But however, though, a character is still a character, and I want to include them nonetheless as long as they are alive and real. So that's what we're going to be doing here today, guys. So if you guys end up enjoying this video, and you guys do want to see more videos like this, please, just like last time, once again, show your guys' support by dropping a like, comment, and subscribe. It would forever mean the world to me, and I'd be more than happy to end up bringing you guys a game that we all love once again. But yeah, guys, other than that, let's rank all the Season 2 characters in The Walking Dead. Alrighty, guys, so coming in our very first spot, this is a clump of characters all together, and this is going to be every single one of the 400-day characters, except for one. I'm going to be excluding Bonnie from this list because she's a lot more significant than the other ones. But yes, guys, literally every single 400-day character besides Bonnie is going to be at the very bottom of this list, because they serve no storyline development, no like significant purpose, no nothing in comparison to the other characters in Season 2. I understand that the 400 Days characters were kind of meant to end up being a like a one-time deal, or in this case, more of a transitional phase between Season 1 and Season 2 to get people excited. But, dude, they are such a disappointment. So, all the 400 Days characters, I don't really know them as well, because I've only played the 400 Days DLC just recently a couple months ago. And the thing is, though, is that with these 400 Days characters, that they're just not likable in the way that they're portrayed in Season 2, guys. They're literally just Carver's henchmen, except for Bonnie. Bonnie does end up serving more of a main role. That's why she's going to have her own spot later. You get to know her throughout the rest of the season. She serves a more focal point in the story. But for everyone else, when it comes to, you know, people like such as Vince, Wyatt, Russell, Shell, Becca, Tava, all those guys, they're literally just his henchmen, and some of them don't even like have like more than 10 lines. And if you don't play the 400 Days DLC, you're going to get them all. But if you do play the 400 Days DLC, some of them are not even in the season at all. It's a Season 1 to Season 2 carryover thing, and that's just basically it. All they are there is just to be like, hey, that's kind of a cool Easter egg, and then that's it. Like, other than Bonnie, they are completely pointless. I really was disappointed with the 400 Days crew not being able to live up to the hype, and maybe that's just me, but let me know what you think about them down below in the chat. Alrighty, guys, so coming in at our next spot, now this is going to be one of our significant characters, but not for a good reason. This is going to end up being Carver. Carver is by far the worst villain in The Walking Dead, at least the one with Clementine. Now, the thing is with Carver, this guy is a psychotic maniac beyond to the point where he's even remotely possible saving. Yes, I understand that Kenny has his own psycho moments in The Walking Dead, but Carver and Kenny, as much as they're both horrible at some points, Carver is, in my opinion, not redeemable in terms of like the way Kenny is, where Kenny is redeemable. And the thing is with Carver is that he does some crazy stuff in this season that makes him literally evil. Like, it's on par with like the Governor and Negan and Alpha from the Whisperers group version of evil in the main series of The Walking Dead, and that's because they're also in the same universe. But yeah, Carver is nuts, and just because of what he does to Kenny, I have to say that he's down to the bottom of the barrel. Alrighty, guys, now coming into our next spot, this is a very dislikable character once again, but he's just slightly less horrible than Carver because, you know, this character in particular is younger, and I would like to assume he's only like a teenager, but yet he's still kind of an asshole. And so he's just only slightly better than Carver. Not completely. I do feel like he would be redeemable in some ways. We even did try within this season. But, yep, you guessed it. He's on the screen already. This is Arbo. Arbo is the Russian guy that you, if you have the desire to, can rob him of his medicine with Jane in the earlier part of the episode he's in. But one of the biggest reasons why I put him at the bottom of the list is because even when you think he's redeemable, he commits one of the most horrible acts in the series, and that's shooting Clementine and basically almost killing her. I'm pretty sure that Arvo shooting her was the closest Clem's ever gotten to dying, other than getting her leg bitten at the end of Season 4. But yeah, Arvo is a maniac. He's just only slightly less worse than Carver, but just barely. This guy, I don't like him at all. And this does also count his people, by the way. I am also including them on this list in pretty much the same spot. Alrighty guys, coming at the next spot, this is going to end up being Troy. Now, Troy, other than being a part of Carver's team and basically being his bitch, Troy just serves as that one asshole that's basically the warden, or in this case, the gatekeeper from the group escaping. He's always watching over you. He's, you know, with these condescending comments ready in his back pocket. Troy is literally just an inconvenience to everyone in the group. He is a threat because he's always walking around with that AK-47 and pretty much being willing to aim it at you for the littlest offense that you do. But also as well, he's just annoying. He's so goddamn annoying. All these other characters that I've listed so far already, they're evil, sure, but Troy is literally just a thorn in my side. And even though, as a man, I can understand the pain he was going through, getting shot in the dick and left to die by Jane, he kind of ended up having that coming, and he definitely did deserve it, in my opinion. Alrighty, guys, coming in at the next spot here, this is going to be another character I really hate. This season had a lot of dislikable characters, I'm not going to lie. I didn't truly notice that until I was making this video. But yes, guys, the next character on our list, she does have a name. Apparently, her in-game name is Michelle, even though I've never heard of her refer to her name, or has anybody else referred to her name. But yes, Michelle is the young teenage girl that ends up shooting Omid at the very first episode of Season 2. And for that reason alone, she is a horrible character on my list because she killed my boy Omid. You know, Omid is our guy, guys. You know, he's the likable, funny goofball character that actually was the contrasting to the more tough side of the relationship that was within the group. You know, Omid was the light guy, and then Krista was kind of more of like the slightly tougher, dark side of the group. And so having Clementine with both of them was a good thing. You know, you had that mixture of tough and also caring. But with Omid gone, you even see it right away at the beginning with Krista just being left with Clem, is that there's this dark, looming cloud over everybody, and that's just because the way that he dies, it's completely and utterly unfair. I really, really wish that they didn't screw Omid this way. I understand they had to have some sort of character development for Clementine here for her to get tough and to grow up, but the way that they do Omid is just so dirty, man. They basically didn't even give him a chance. I would rather at least have Omid grab the gun and get into a struggle and then lose the fight than just completely getting shot clean and not even having a chance. He just got screwed. And it's because of the fact that the way that they wrote this season, it was kind of meant to be that way. Season 2 was awfully dark. It's the darkest of all 4 seasons, in my opinion. But I really wish that they didn't kill Omid, or at least the way that they did. So because of that, I have to say that this Michelle girl, she sucks ass. Alrighty guys, coming in at the next spot here, this is going to be the scavengers that attack Clem and Krista at the beginning of Season 2, Episode 1. Now, these guys in particular end up setting up the chain of events for Clementine to end up getting separated from Krista, so that way she can end up meeting the rest of the Season 2 crew. Who knows truly what would have happened if Krista actually stayed with Clementine somehow, regardless of if the scavengers attacked. Maybe what would have happened is that Krista might have ended up reconnecting with Kenny and being able to make Kenny more human again, because then Kenny would have had 2 people that he would have known. Maybe what would have also happened is that Krista could have ended up turning evil and maybe resenting Clementine, saying you're gonna get us killed, stuff like that. There's a variety of different things that could have happened, or maybe just nothing would have happened. Maybe Krista just would have just went on her own way and just separated from Clementine, regardless whether or not the scavengers showed up. It's just a variety of different outcomes to think about just because of just one event alone. I guess you can call that the butterfly effect. But yeah, it's just crazy to think what would have happened differently if these guys just didn't show up. Alrighty guys, coming in at the next spot, this is actually a character that I don't mind. This is actually one I don't even remotely consider as a terrible character. This character is on the side of decent. I don't exactly love him, but he's definitely likable. This character is Reggie. Now with Reggie, he is the very first character that you end up meeting basically when you end up getting captured by Carver and you end up going to Carver's base. Now, the thing is with Reggie is that Reggie is not exactly against you, but he does have his own agenda where he wants to end up being on Carver's good side, which means that to a certain extent, he's not exactly on your side either. He's trying to, I believe, stay neutral if ideal, but, however, though, I think if push came to shove, he would take Carver's side because that's where his loyalty is. But we never know where that happens anyways because Carver ends up killing him. He ends up getting thrown off of a roof and, gone by Reggie. We don't even get to see what would have happened after the events of the plants and the flower maintenance with Sarah. So, who knows? Maybe Reggie would have betrayed us. Maybe he would have not. But we'll never know because he ends up getting killed by Carver. Alrighty guys, coming into the next spot here, this is going to end up being AJ. So with AJ, at this point he was only just a baby. AJ was born in Season 2, Episode 4, and the thing is with AJ is that since he is a baby, he has no narrative, no dialogue, no nothing. But he does serve one main purpose, and that main purpose is being a beacon of hope for the rest of the group. The thing is that when AJ is born is that he ends up making Kenny seem more human again, and he also allows Clementine to feel more bonded with people again, because in Season 2, and this ends up manifesting into Season 3 when she's separated from AJ at points, but AJ keeps Clem from getting too hard and essentially turning evil, because, he is a sign of innocent life, and this is what allows Clementine to be able to end up becoming the lead figure in Season 4. Now, there's so many different things that AJ contributes to the group just by him simply being there, but he's a lot more important in Season 4 because he's got dialogue, he can do things like kill people, defend people, all that stuff, but as a baby, he didn't really do much other than just end up acting as a inspiration for the rest of the group to keep moving forward. But yeah, the way I look at AJ is that I think that he was just born at the right moment. Alrighty guys, coming at the next spot here, this is going to end up being Matthew. Now, Matthew is only ever in one scene, and he is a decent character. He is what could have been. He was a character that served the purpose of trying to end up basically building Nick's character, in this case in particular, because what happens is that you meet him on the bridge with Luke and Clem, and the thing is, though, is that unfortunately he ends up meeting his demise because Nick ends up shooting him and killing him, which leads to Nick ending up being in a position where Walter eventually can find out whether or not that Nick killed him or not, and if you choose to be a certain type of person towards Nick, or if you try to end up giving certain dialogue to other characters about Nick, it can lead to Nick end up getting killed in Episode 2 or all the way up into Episode 4. Nick, I feel like, has one of the most diverse character deaths and most diverse storyline, because he can die in the beginning of the game and he can die at the very end of the game, basically. And if it wasn't for Matthew setting that up, wouldn't have happened. Alright, now this next character is going to be one that I don't exactly like because she screws you over, but she's not horrible. This is Sarah. Sarah is the character in this season that's basically the coward, if you will. There's like the stereotypes of everyone during the apocalypse. There's the coward, there's the crazy person, there's the actual sane hero person, and stuff like that. And Sarah, in this case, is the coward. She ends up getting so many things wrong in the apocalypse. Now, one of you guys mentioned in my comments from a while back proposing something. Now, I don't know if this is canon within the game or if this is a fan theory or something like that. But however, though, it's still interesting nonetheless. One of you guys mentioned the possibility about Sarah being special needs, which does explain the way that Carlos ends up talking to you about her after you end up fixing your arm wound from the dog bite. Now, if Sarah in this case is special needs, it would make sense for her character about why she acts the way she does. But regardless of whether or not she is special needs or not, she does result in people getting killed through her actions throughout the season. And unfortunately, whether or not she is special needs, I still feel bad for the fact that all the characters have to die by her hands. So, in a respectful way, I am putting her on the lower half of the list. Alrighty guys, coming in at the next spot, this is going to be Sarah's dad, Carlos. So with Carlos, I don't exactly have a problem with Carlos. I originally, when I first played Season 2, didn't particularly like him. But he's grown on me. I understand that he was just being a caring dad, trying to be the best that he could. Now, the thing is, though, with Carlos is that, unfortunately, regardless of whether or not Sarah is special needs, he never does teach her to defend herself like Lee does with Clementine. And you can kind of think about this in an alternate universe type of idea where maybe Carlos with, his daughter Sarah is what could have happened with Lee and Clementine if Chuck didn't give you the advice to be able to teach her how to shoot, cut her hair, and all that stuff. That's just maybe me going a little bit more deeper than it possibly needs to go, but it's just an interesting theory, and as much as Carlos did try to be the best dad that he could, he still didn't teach her to shoot. That deducts some points for me, but however, though, he is nice to Clementine if you're at least nice to him and you do help out the group. And he does back you up in important instances, such as trying to be able to defend you if you seek out counsel when you're possibly going to be thrown in the shed and everyone wants to lock you in there. So Carlos is okay, but just okay. Alrighty guys, coming at the next spot here, this is going to end up being Walter. Walter is one of Kenny's friends, or in this case, one of Kenny's group members from when you first meet Kenny again in Season 2. And Walter is a good guy, for the most part. Like, I don't end up seeing anything bad about him, unless you end up doing something due to your own actions. The only thing that sucks about Walter in remotely any fashion is just the fact that he can possibly kill Nick. He can kill Nick if you, the player, decide to end up saying certain things to him after he finds out that Matthew is dead, such as saying that whether or not that Nick is a good guy, or whether or not that you end up just telling him the truth flat outright, or if you lie. And if you end up doing everything correctly and you don't end up having him kill Nick, there's nothing wrong with Walter. He's a okay character. He ends up helping out the group. He's nice to everybody. He helps out Clementine. He even does things such as trying to give supplies to Bonnie and looking at her in an innocent side perspective when she's trying to end up just scouting the area and getting Carver to end up coming and capture you later in the episode. But even though he's only in one episode, Walter's honestly just not a bad guy. It's just that he just ends up suffering from two things primarily. Number one is that he never really lives to be able to end up growing as a character because he only lives for one episode, so that's one of the reasons why Walter is lower on the list. Secondly, also as well, is that what he ends up doing to the story is unfortunately a 50-50. He can either end up being a really good character and be a really, really good guy, or he can end up killing one of the characters that are in your group. Or an eye for an eye type of mentality, which sucks. So it's 50-50 because it's player choice, and it's not like you get screwed where he does one or the other no matter what. So I'm glad that you at least get the choice. But yeah, I can't look at Walter as anything higher on the list just because he never had room to grow. Alrighty guys, now coming in at our next spot here, this is going to end up being Rebecca. Now Rebecca, I didn't like her during my first playthrough because when I played this game back when it first came out, I was a kid and I just thought she was just an annoying adult. But playing this as an adult, I understand where she's coming from now. Being pregnant during the zombie apocalypse is not fun, and I should have caught on to that in this case, with Krista. Now, I don't know if, for example, if you go down like an evil route, if she will turn evil and screw you over, because that can happen sometimes. If you're like the 1% of players where you go down the evil route, I don't know if she screws you up. But for the most part, she's actually decent, and depending on the path you take, she can actually be quite sweet. At the end, when she, gives birth to AJ and everything, and allowing you to be able to, like, hold him and stuff like that, she is very, very nice, and like an aunt figure almost to Clementine. I feel like a lot of the Season 2 characters, even though the group was dysfunctional at points, I feel like some of the characters become some of the most sentimental characters to Clementine at the end of the day. I mean, without Rebecca, we wouldn't have had AJ. Alrighty guys, now for our next spot, this is Mike. Now, when I played the season again this time around, like only just a couple months ago, my perspective on Mike has slightly switched. Now, it's not like with Rebecca where I came to like her. I started to be a little bit almost suspicious of Mike. Because, I mean, I know that in the last time we ever see him with Bonnie, basically Bonnie and Mike are trying to escape and they're essentially ditching you and taking the car. Now, the thing is, though, is that the way I look at it is that he doesn't exactly turn me off to his character with what he does. He just wants to leave. Same thing with Bonnie, and at the end of the day, it was Arbo that shot Clem. Mike did nothing. He didn't do anything other than just stand there and just kind of like freeze up for a minute, and hell, he didn't even suggest to leave Clementine to die and bleed out either. That was Bonnie. And even then with Bonnie, I think that she was just scared. But I wonder what happened to Mike, because you never see his death, and you never end up hearing from him ever again after that last scene. But I started to like Mike as the season went on, and I kind of just want to know just what the hell happened to him at the end of the day. Alrighty guys, coming in at our next spot here, this is going to end up being Bonnie, the only 400 Days character that is actually worth a damn being in the game. Because Bonnie is a character that actually helps you throughout the story. She can end up being good or bad, so she's definitely a dynamic character and not a flat one. Yeah, Bonnie in general is just a likable character, because not only is she, able to be good, but her character is just not boring. The 400 Days characters, like I said at the beginning of the video, I will repeat this again, they were a massive disappointment. But Bonnie was not. She was a focal point in Season 2 because she helps you end up escaping Carver's base. She can or cannot become evil or good depending on your path that you take. She ends up having a almost like a crush. I don't know if it ever went to full-blown relationship because it ended up happening with Jane, but she's got a crush on Luke, so she's got this kind of relationship going back and forth, her character development, that makes her interesting to learn about her character. Now, even though her 400 Days story was kind of short and awfully dark, she has a much more uplifting story and a much more better character arc in Season 2. If they would have never had the 400 Days story, I wouldn't have really felt that different about Bonnie. I mean, now knowing it, because I played Season 2 originally before 400 Days, I still feel the same. Playing 400 Days before meeting Bonnie in Season 2, regardless, I still feel the exact same. She's just a character that I think is sweet and fun to be around. However, though, there is moments where I am pissed at her, for example, such as if you decide to take Luke's side at the ice lake, and you don't end up actually going onto the lake to save him, and you just decide to shoot instead. She holds a grudge against you, and therefore she kind of loses her sweetness and ends up hating you. So, with Bonnie, I don't know how to feel about her sometimes, because sometimes I hate her, sometimes I like her. But I would say I like her more than not. Other than a few exceptions, and other just than one fluke decision at the very end, which I still get salty about with Luke, she's really not that bad, and she is one of the more likable characters. I really sincerely mean that, because regardless of what happens at the end where she decides to leave Clementine, I think it was just mostly out of fear. Alrighty guys, coming in at the next character spot, this is going to end up being Serena. So, Serena in the story was Kenny's girlfriend, and with Serena was a good character for Kenny. I like her because she keeps Kenny human. Now, originally when I played Season 2, I thought that Kenny was just going to be the same old Kenny, and I didn't realize the dark, slap in the face I was going to get with his character development in Season 2. His character arc in Season 2 really does still disturb me even years later. But yeah, Serena, though, if she would have lived, it really makes me wonder how Kenny would have been. I genuinely think he would have been definitely a lot less dark if she didn't die. Maybe if, for example, they decide to make it where she could have lived just a little bit longer. I mean, I understand that, not every character in this game lasts forever, and not any individual decision can keep them to move on to the next story. But if we would have, for example, chopped off Serena's arm and she would have lived, even if it was by, one more episode, it would have been nice if Kenny would have been like, oh, you saved Serena, thank you so much, and then he bonds more with Clem. But unfortunately, it's the polar opposite. If you cut her arm off, she dies instantaneously, and then you have to kill the zombified version of her right in front of Kenny, and it's just a lot worse. She doesn't even have a character arc where I believe she can even become evil. She's always nice to the player, or in this case, Clementine here. So, with everything all said and done, she earns up a lot of brownie points from me. Alrighty guys, so for our next character on the list here, I feel like this is going to be a uncommon pick, but let me know what you guys think in the comments. But for me, this is going to end up being Alvin. Alvin in The Walking Dead Season 2, I feel like is underrated and deserves a little bit more recognition. He ends up helping you out so much throughout the series. He's never been bad to Clementine, he's never ended up being in this position where he's selfish or anything, other than being technically selfish for Rebecca. He might ask, for example, to end up giving them extra food. But then again, though, it's not completely self-centered. It's not like he's only in it for himself. And even in the scene that you guys are seeing for the gameplay I decided to choose, he'll actually stand his ground after the beating he's taken and essentially save you, the player, and allow you to be able to escape. He ends up dying doing this. I think he would have died regardless anyways because of his wounds, who knows. But he ends up taking a gun and making a stand and lets you escape, and I respect that. It earns a lot of respect in my eyes, and I hope that Alvin is seeing the pearly gates of heaven on his way out from that epic battle that he had. Alrighty guys, so for these next characters, this is going to end up being Nick, and then right after, Pete. I'm going to be having them back to back, but however, though, I do like Pete slightly more than Nick. I'm just going to be clumping them here together because I have them in a cutscene together. But let's end up ranking Nick first, because Nick is the next character in this list order. So, I know a lot of you guys in the comment section actually told me that you really like Nick. Now, I understand that, and I respect that, but for me in particular, I just don't feel 100% the same way, and hopefully you guys can respect my opinion back at me. But yeah, guys, the way I feel with Nick is that he is middle of the road. Now, let me explain what I do and do not like about Nick. I say that probably his best likable character trait is the fact that he does end up sticking by you if you do make certain character decisions. And by that, I mean it is very much based on character decisions. I also like how with his story in particular, depending on what you do, he can be a character that dies in episode 2, which is like really, really soon, or he can die all the way in episode 4, which means that he's like one of the last that ever does die in the group. And that makes his character story very diverse. Now, when we talk about Pete, because I do like Pete just a little bit better, Pete is a character that I feel is more enjoyable than Nick because Pete ends up looking out for you. And Pete ends up sticking up for you straight off the bat. When you end up getting saved by Luke and Pete after the dog bite, not even Luke is the first person to back you up. It's actually Pete. So, because Pete does back you up, even though I really do love Luke, he ends up earning super, super brownie points. Like, even Luke wasn't able to do that. He backs you up when you need it most. He doesn't even know you yet, and he's just like, okay, we gotta trust this girl. You know, we gotta help her. It's the right thing to do. So, I feel like Nick wouldn't have done that. That's why I don't look at Nick the same way. Any sort of courageous act does end up earning a higher spot on the list, and you'll come to understand that later on and why. But yeah, when it comes to Pete, I like him just a little bit more than Nick. Alrighty guys, now in our next spot here, this is going to end up being Krista. Now Krista, regardless of how I feel about her in Season 2, she needs to be up higher on the list because she does two important things. And then the first thing being is that she is there for your character. Regardless of what happens to Omid, and even though she could easily blame you, in fact, I do think that she, to a certain degree, does blame you for what happens to Omid, she still sticks with you and still honors Lee's request if you choose to do so and keep protecting Clementine. Secondly, also as well, is she's just a character that is enjoyable for her story. Yes, if she was only within Season 2 and you never saw her in Season 1, it would be a lot less likable, but because of how we know her backstory goes, we know she's still truly a good person at heart. It's just that she ends up having a slump at the very end of her time being with us. Now, we never get to see her again after the forest in episode 1 of Season 2, but I really want to know what would have happened. I'm glad that there was the theory going around about like how Telltale was considering bringing her back as a villain in Season 4 rather than Lily. It would have been interesting to see it that way. I can also understand why that would happen because of Omid's death. Maybe she blames you and then decides to betray you when you see her again. But the way I look at her story is that since that the canon way of looking at it is that she doesn't turn on you and that she just ends up being missing, I think that because of her past and how we know her, she definitely still needs to be higher on the list because she's just a good character, a good person, and she is a survivor that helps us towards the very end. Now, just like my Season 1 rankings list, I'm going to be doing the same thing here. I'm going to be ranking Omid over Krista. Now, I understand for the sake of Clementine, Krista is better for her because Krista is tougher. But like I said before in the video, Krista with Omid, their relationship is tough and hopeful. Omid is the more, like, light uplifting one, and Krista's the more tough, you know, like, survivor of the group, of the two of them. And with Omid being gone, unfortunately, that does leave Clementine being a survivor and tough, but she loses that innocence about her. I feel like that Omid dying was one of the worst character deaths for Clementine personally. And I really, really do wish that he would have had just one more episode to be with us. He didn't even get a full episode, man. Like, come on, guys. Like, justice for Omid, please. Alrighty, guys. Now, for these last three characters, number 4, 3, and 2, not number 1, because number 1, we do have a definitive answer here, but for these last 3 in particular out of the 4, number 4, 3, and 2, these last few characters are almost a deadlock. These are very difficult for me to rank, and you guys will understand why, because they're all likable characters for all of us, but I'm going to be trying my best to explain why I put them the way that I did, and I'm going to ask you guys a question. Let me know in the comment section down below what is your personal list? You can do a little list. You can end up talking about these 3 characters in particular, or you can end up giving me a full list like how I do throughout this video, ranking all the Season 2 characters. Let me know what you think. But yes, guys, coming in at our next spot for number 4, this is going to end up being Jane. Now, with Jane, she is one of the last few characters to survive in the group. At the very end, she is one of the characters, other than AJ and Kenny, that makes it with you. Like, she's one of the very last few people. She's a survivor. She's tough. Now, albeit she is kind of distant and kind of cold at times, she is also very loving and caring towards Clem, and also AJ, because AJ is a baby, of course. But yeah, she ends up being this sister figure for Clementine, and I like that. I feel like every single character's had their role for Clementine. Jane being like a sister figure, Luke being like a brother, Kenny being like an uncle, Lee being a dad, stuff like that. And Jane being the sister in this dysfunctional family, she is there for Clem. She ends up backing her up in instances such as, for example, when Kenny goes nuts. She's there for her when she's trying to survive, when others won't help her. And she gives her life learning skills to be able to get by, just like how Lee did through Chuck. I feel like other than Lee through Chuck, Jane gives Clem some of the best advice she needs to survive. But however, though, unfortunately, though, she can't live up to the hype of Kenny. Now, I understand that this is a very polarizing decision, because I've talked about throughout this list about how that I like characters that are redeemable, good people, and are there for you to the very end. Now, Kenny, unfortunately, although be it, yes, he is psycho and crazy, lovable at the same time, it's very hard to rank him. Because Kenny, depending on how you go, can end up being extremely bad, where he's almost debatably worse than Carver. Or he can be slightly less bad and at least just a tough as nails and broken man, but he's still a good person at the core of himself. Or you can end up just getting the most common ending for a lot of us, which is just that he's just a psychopath and you only really know him as a friend, and that's really all you have to go off of with him. Kenny, you have a variety of different endings you can go with him. You can either A, kill him at the end over Jane, and then you end up murdering basically your uncle figure. You can either let him live and have Jane die, and then Jane, your sister figure, dies, and you can either go off with him to Wellington, and you can try to survive there, and you can either live with him at the car again and continue to go on the road because they can't accept you all, or you can choose to leave him and go your separate ways and you stay in Wellington. Or, however, though, you can decide to let one of the two of them live and the other one die, and then you can go off on your own and be with neither of them. There's so many different endings in Season 2 that it's hard to pick one. The very first time around I did shoot Kenny, I actually thought that he was dangerous, and I agree with Jane's point of trying to, show that if AJ were to die somehow, even if it was on accident, that he would snap. But however, though, the second time around I did the opposite, and I actually let Kenny live because I feel like that he just got screwed and that Jane took things way too far. Depending on how you look at this, it might just be because of personal experiences and past beliefs. But yeah, I really have a hard time ranking these two of them because they're just super fucking close. Alright guys, now we're on number 2, and I just want to say is that I love this character, and I really wish that he never died. I love him so much. He's one of my top 5, right next to Lee. This is Luke. Luke is an amazing character in Season 2. Period. He's nice to you. He's never evil in any outcome. I've never seen an outcome where he is evil towards Clementine. He's never evil to anybody. And he ends up saving you. He tries to save you by, sneaking back into Carver's base and rescue you all, although be it he gets caught, but he ends up, risking that and trying to end up being a hero. He ends up taking care of you and feeding you, cereal after everything's all said and done with your arm. Now, yes, it does upset me a little bit to a certain degree that he doesn't end up helping you out at the very beginning when you get first bit by the dog. It's actually Pete in that case that actually helps you out. So that's one little thing I don't like about Luke, is that he doesn't back you up at the very beginning, but as he gets to know you, he ends up redeeming himself for that mistake. He is there for you the whole entire way, thick and thin. I am glad that he survives all 5 episodes until the very end when he inevitably does die, but I really do feel that his ending was kind of crappy. Now, I understand that they had to kill him to be able to achieve the ending that they wanted, where it's going to end up being Kenny versus Jane, and you have to pick, but I feel that Kenny versus Jane, although that was definitely a interesting ending. It would have been cool to see a different ending where Luke was somehow still alive. Now, this is a fan-made thing, but I still want to mention it regardless because it's an interesting theory. There is a video out there where someone made the video of the ending cutscene again of The Walking Dead, but however, though, they swapped Jane's model with Luke's model, and it actually makes the decision now, instead of Kenny versus Jane, it's Kenny versus Luke. And even though that's not canon, that's a very interesting ending to think about. And even though that would be definitely very tough, because the Kenny versus Jane decision, in my opinion, is one of the toughest in the whole entire series, and it would have been very hard to do it with Luke, it would have been really, really cool at least to have the option. Maybe I'll have to mod the game one day to see what it would have been like, but yes, other than one simple thing, Luke is by all time my favorite character in this group in Season 2, other than, of course, number 1. Guys, number 1 is going to end up being the best video game character of all time. This is our girl, Clementine. Clementine is the absolute best character in The Walking Dead, so that's why I also have to rank her as number 1, especially for Season 2. As we play throughout the seasons, she is growing up into a badass zombie-killing woman. Now, she goes from innocent child to basically a mom figure, kind of like how Lee was with a father figure for her when she was younger. And I like how that you can see that progress throughout the seasons. In Season 2, this is kind of like the big stepping point for her being an adult. She has to grow up really fast, because now that Lee's gone and a lot of people are starting to go, she has to either make the decision to end up dying or becoming a survivor. And that manifests a lot, especially from her line where she says, and this is my favorite Clementine quote of all time, "I'm still not bitten." The most badass quote that I have ever heard out of a little girl's mouth ever. Clementine is number 1, and there's no doubt about it in my mind. Let me know what your thoughts are about this list down below in the comment section, guys. But yeah, that's going to be it. I hope you enjoyed me ranking all these Season 2 characters in Telltale Games The Walking Dead. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. I hope you enjoyed another YouTube video from the most unique YouTuber you guys are ever going to see. Thank you for watching, guys, and peace out.